Derek Wills, Cap Air. Welcome,
What is up, my friend? How you doing?
dude. I'm doing good, dude. But a lot's up, man. You asked the question. What the fuck's going on in the world, man? That's my question to you, man. It's a weird time to be alive, right? It's not just me.
This timeline sucks. I'm just gonna say this. I mean,
Well, how, depends. What do you mean? Like why? Because for me, I keep telling my kids, everyone I talk to, we're gonna get fucked by the government no matter what. At least make it entertaining, and at least I'm entertained at this point in time. So I'm
I
like,
mean, there is that. But if you seek entertainment, you just have to look no further than the Libertarian Party.
I knew
But
we were going there.
but I will say that Donald Trump is entertaining in and of itself. I'm just gonna say this: kudos to Trump for not just freeing Ross Ulbricht, but giving him a full pardon as well. Now, if only he could get his Bitcoin.
Unconditional pardon, man. That is
I was
big.
I happily ate my words. I was like, he ain't gonna fucking do that. He is not gonna do that. And holy shit, he did that. And he did it right. Holy shit.
He did, and I gotta say too, and this is interesting. I want to talk to you about this because I know that you've been pretty tough on Angela McArdle, and I got differences with her too. But I kind of changed my view on that a little bit because
Okay.
I was talking to Martha Bueno on a thread just on Twitter, and she's close with Ross's family, and I said something like, like us anarchists tend to do, and say, I'm pretty fucking skeptical that he's going to free Ross, right? Like, I think you and I probably saw it the same way at the time, which is the dude is being prosecuted. He needs to be able to pardon himself. He's got to become president. He'll say anything to anyone at any time to get the
Yeah.
vote. And then he's lame duck. He's 4 years and nobody.
That's it.
And the thing is, he's so egotistical. He doesn't give a shit what comes after him. He's not like one of those figures that's like going to build the Republican Party for the future or any of that bullshit. He's like, it's for me. It's for now. I got 4 years and you can all go fuck yourself. That's how I saw it, right? And so I thought he would do it and say like, hey, I played you libertarians, suckers, and because it doesn't square with his base, right? Like his base is all law and order, and you look at his first term, the things he said about it wasn't Ross in particular. I don't think maybe there was, because he went pretty hard on things like what was that? There's like a website back in the day where people would get like, I don't know, dirty massages and stuff. I can't. Backpage. That's what it was called. And he banned it. Like Trump got that pushed through, and he was very against some of the black market, underground, gray market type of stuff. He was actually saying he wanted to murder Julian Assange and he wanted to murder Edward Snowden. And like I didn't forget this. And his base was like, yeah, traitor. You hear all this stuff. And so it didn't make sense to me. But Martha.
Yeah.
Martha kind of smacked me pretty hard, and she's like, hey, you have to understand something. Lynn, she's seeing this stuff, and like that's her son. Like just maybe tone it down a little bit. And I kind of felt bad a little bit. I was like, maybe I'm being a little bit of a dick. And so I at that time said, okay, look, I can reload. I can put some rounds in the chamber, and if he doesn't, then start. So that's kind of the track I took. I said, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. And Angela says she's got a deal worked out. And I was like, well, I'm just not going to talk all the shit that I usually talk, and I'm going to let it play out. And, Ross is a free man, full unconditional pardon. So tell me what you think about that, man. Does that square with the way you're thinking, or you think of it differently?
No. I was just as surprised as everyone else, especially, day one came and went, and I was just like, "Yep, there it is. He's not going to do it. He pardoned 1,500 J6ers, and
You
Ross
can do one
Ulbricht.
more?
Yeah,
You can do one more.
Yeah, seriously. And that told me he's definitely not going to do it. And so whenever it happened, the very next day, I was just blown away. And an old post that I had replied to something Ross's wife had posted on his Twitter the day after the Libertarian Convention, where he comes in and he's like, yeah, I'm going to commute Ross's sentence. I had said, I'm sorry, Ross, but he's a fucking liar. I want you free, but I also don't want you to have any false hope. And that post got I mean, I got a lot of hate at the time, but the day that Trump pardoned Ross, that post came back and everyone was just dragging me on it. And like I was pissed off at it, like, well, eat crow and, this aged poorly, this aged like milk. No shit. Clearly I was wrong. I'm happy to admit that I was wrong. But, people were really upset at the tone that I used. And I am not going to apologize for that, because here's the thing. Imagine you're Ross Ulbricht. You're serving life sentences plus 40 years, and a candidate for president who's already been president once is promising to release you. Imagine how heartbroken and depressed you're going to be if he does not come good on that promise. I would be hard pressed to like not get my hopes up, because holy shit, my name's coming out of this dude's mouth, and if he gets in, he'll have the power to do that. But he didn't do it the first time, and I really just wanted it's a much better ending if his expectation was that he's not going to do it and he gets pardoned, than to have his expectations he's going to get pardoned and it not actually happen. So I have zero regrets about what I said to him at the time. I'm happy that I was wrong about it, but I'm not gonna, some people were like, you need to apologize. I'm not gonna do that, because I would go back and do it again, because again, I think it's far worse to give somebody false hope than to lull their expectations and have them be surprised,
I do. And I think that's where maybe people don't understand people like us who are coming at it from that perspective. It is like, we've seen this movie before, and we've seen the way this is probably going to play out, and you get righteously indignant. You get pissed off because you look at somebody who's gone through hell like Ross and his family, and you're like, ooh, if you fuck this guy over some political bullshit, like that would just be the dirtiest thing ever. To get, like you said, to get somebody's hopes really, really up there and then to not follow through would have been like the ghastliest thing that I can imagine. I think a lot of us, it was not this sort of, and by the way, I've been pretty critical. I'm not sure if you saw my video talking about the infighting with libertarians, but I've been pretty critical of all this infighting and stuff that's like bullshit. But this doesn't feel like bullshit. This is real. Like, this is like somebody's life that we're talking about. This is really impactful. This isn't like how fucking pure are you or some bullshit that doesn't really matter in the real world.
Right.
So I was very like, my position of being skeptical was trying to be like, bring, some sense of caution to people and be like, hey, like be aware of this dude. Like this is not, so I don't know how you feel, but that's really where it came from for me. It was like this preemptive sense of being pissed off because I know this dude and I know what he's capable of.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I mean, the dude, he only gives a shit about himself. And even now, that Ross has been pardoned, he didn't do that because it was the right thing. I don't even think he did it for political points. I was on a space with Jeremy. I forget his last name.
Jeremy Kaufman?
No. We can talk about him later because he just pissed me off with his latest shenanigans. His handle is Insanity is Free. Anyway, he brought up how, there's a fair likelihood that Trump did this just to kind of get back at the prosecutors that were going at him.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something that I had considered. And, the case he made for it made a lot of sense. I'm not going to like deep dive it because I really don't give a shit that much. Ross is free. That's all that really matters. But ultimately, like, if anybody's going to put their faith in, well, anyone else, then it's misguided. You shouldn't put faith in people who don't even know you exist. So.
Yeah, for sure. Beat this horse dead, man. But I wanted to talk about your opinion on Trump's first few days in office, man. What are you seeing out there?
Hang on. First of all, I gotta correct something. His name's Jeremiah, not Jeremy. I'm fucking retarded.
Oh, Jeremiah Harding? Is that guy?
Yeah, I am so sorry. Jeremiah, if you're listening to this, I am so sorry. I know your fucking name. I'm not this stupid. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Maybe Jeremy Kauffman was on my fucking mind.
It's
Anyway,
possible.
what was your question? I'm so sorry.
Oh, I was asking for your analysis of the early days of the Trump administration, dude.
Well, it's too soon to tell. I mean, okay, he signed an executive order freezing foreign aid to every place except Israel and Egypt for 90 days. Okay, next. He pardoned the January 6ers. Okay, cool. They shouldn't have been prosecuted. That's great. But we all know why he did that. That's his base. That's just political points for him. He's talking a lot about abolishing the income tax. I don't see that happening. It's not going to happen. They have that bill filed in Congress, which I wonder if the text is available yet, because I'm really interested in seeing what the national sales tax rate is going to be.
Yeah. Dude. So I just had Mark Lubliner on my show. He came into the office and we chatted today, and I was talking to him about this, and I was talking about the math associated with this shift. I mean, when you think about this, right? And sorry, this is going to be like a back-to-back episode repeat of this material, but you've got a very, very graduated income tax rate where most people don't pay income tax. I'm not sure if people are aware that most people in the United States don't pay any income tax, right? It's very much the upper earners that are paying the lion's share, right? So most people aren't paying any. And so what you're seeing then is a shift of the burden of those tax receipts going from income tax to a national sales tax, tariffs, yada, yada. That is going to be a very regressive tax.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's going to harm the poor the hardest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the middle class, and it's going to be a massive hit to these people who are already just barely hanging on with the inflation crisis that we're dealing with, right? So these folks are completely screwed. And what does that mean, Derek? That means the government's going to have the sob stories that, and they're legitimate. Like people are really fucked, and you're like, look at these horrible, and all these rich people now aren't paying their fair share, right? So guess what? Now let me paint the picture for you, dude. So now we have an external revenue service, right? So you can let's say we temporarily get rid of the income tax and temporarily get rid of the IRS. You have this new agency, the ERS, and you've jacked up tariffs, and then they're going to go back and reinstate the IRS and the income tax all over again, and you're fucking stuck with both now. That's how I see it.
I mean, and here's the thing. I've done a little bit of number crunching on it, and I've seen that to be revenue neutral, because government's not going to slash spending. They never will.
Nope. So
it has to be quote unquote revenue neutral. And I really hate calling taxation revenue because, it's theft and extortion. We all know that. But to be revenue neutral, it has to be like almost 30%, 30 to 40%. So the price of your goods is going up 30 to 40%. On top of anything imported is going to get the shit tariffed out of it. So you're probably looking at, what many would consider hyperinflation, but it's actually just taxation. Holy shit.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, but you get to pick and choose. No, the fuck you don't. No, you do not. You do not get to choose, because in order for them to do this, they're not going to be able to not tax the most commonly purchased goods. Mm-hmm. They might tax those at a lower rate, but they're still going to tax them. The price is going to be higher. You cannot squirrel your way out of that shit. And you don't have control. If the government ever gave you control, they wouldn't. If it did, they wouldn't give it to you. So, the whole idea that they're floating this is just insane, and people are buying it, which is even worse. Like, oh yeah, he's going to get rid of income tax.
Well, the worst part is seeing people getting excited, man. It's just like,
I'm always reminded of that scene in Revenge of the Sith where Padme goes, well, this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause. And it's true, because that's how it happens.
Yeah, it's a weird time to be alive, man. But also I got to circle back and just say, how fucking dare you talking shit about Doge? You're telling me they're not going to trim $2 trillion a year from the budget?
I don't
know. Explain yourself.
I don't know if you saw this. Let me see if I can pull it up. But I created a litmus test, an easy litmus test for seeing if Doge is going to be effective. I've bookmarked it because I'm going to pull this shit up. Let's see. I posted this on November 14th, 2024. So right after the election. And I say, bookmark this for 2026. And I have two screenshots from U.S. Debt Clock. One was the current debt, which at that time was $35.998 trillion. And, you know, the little tool they have, the time machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I fast forwarded to 2028, where it showed that the national debt at current rates is going to be $50.898 trillion. It's insane. And I said, bookmark this for 2026. The current debt is just shy of 36 trillion. Projected debt in 2028 is just shy of 51 trillion. Split the difference in 2026. The debt should be about 43.5 trillion at current rates. If the debt is anywhere close to or beyond $43.5 trillion in 2026, Doge has failed.
Wow, that is insane, dude. Like I knew it was bad, and I am a little bit of a nerd on the metrics, but I haven't looked in a while, and the fact that you said that just woo. That
What's crazy though is, you know, the debt clock has added the Doge clock to it, and somehow magically it is. I'm looking at it right now. It has apparently saved $42.8 billion somehow. I don't see how that's accurate. They claim that it is, but
and that's my question, because I see these little things that dribble out of the Doge account, and the things I see are plausible. Like, because we have to be clear here. Like, the Congress holds a purse; they're the ones who allocate funds. But things like canceling leases, the executive has some ability to you know, cut spending. You know, I don't know exactly the legalities of it. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know exactly what they can and can't do, but the stuff I see coming out is plausible. I don't know if it adds up to that 58 billion or whatever, but even if it does, even if it's 58 billion, it's like, well, shit, man, we were sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. Like, I mean, and every other type of spending category, it just is eclipsing anything that might be saved. I'm not saying we shouldn't try to cut the spending, but I think you and I, you know, smart enough to see the writing on the wall. It's like, we are heading for a currency crisis. We're heading for a default. The United States dollar is going to collapse. It's no longer going to be the world's reserve currency. When that happens, there's going to be a shit ton of pain.
Yeah. But, you know, maybe pain is what we, like, real pain is what we need. And I hate to say that, because God knows I don't want to go through it. I don't want anybody I care about to go through it. But, you know, sometimes the burnt hand is the best lesson.
Pain's a teacher. Yeah. It's a powerful teacher, and you're right. I think we've gotten away with a lot of bullshit by the fact that we've got the petrodollar, that we get to print all these dollars and export them. We're the only country in the world that gets to export our inflation to other countries, and they have to convert their currency to dollars to buy oil. And that is something that has shielded us from a lot of the consequences of our bad decisions. So I think the chickens are coming home to roost, and it's going to be a sad day. And I think that's going to be the great reset, as it were, is the United States getting its teeth kicked in and trying to figure out what they're going to do going forward. And it's that old cycle, the tough men and the hard times. And like that I feel like we're right about at the end of that whole thing. And there's a bunch of weak motherfuckers out here that are about to get slapped down pretty hard and have to grow up and pull up their big girl panties and do something. Yeah.
You know, the thing with Trump, though, that I really can't stand, and this has bled over into quote unquote libertarian circles to a degree that really troubles me. It's, you know, his immigration views and the whole, you know, we have to do this mass deportation. And it's like, look, okay, first of all, any libertarian that's touting these same tenets, I'm sorry, but you wouldn't know liberty if it grabbed you by the pussy. It's insane, because it's a travel thing. You know, you have the right to travel. You're not trespassing on private property. And yes, I'm aware that sometimes when people cross the border, they cross through private property and they get through, and okay, technically that's a trespass. I get it. But if the property owner's okay with it, then it doesn't fucking matter then, does it?
Well, not only that, but in a free market, the property owner is responsible for securing their own property and defending their own property.
Yeah. And but you know, I'm gonna kind of tell this little heartbreaking story. You know, I'm in management, and I just tried to I just hired a guy that was great. You know, he was motivated. He had good experience. He was solid, and we had to fire him because we couldn't verify him through E-Verify. And
that's wild.
I know. And it's like, why should I have to beg the government for permission to hire somebody? This guy was perfect for the role. He was more than qualified. And why should I? Because he didn't get the Crown's permission to enter? That's insane to me.
Yeah, and that's where the sort of communism starts to seep out of Republicans. When you start talking about borders and immigration and stuff, all of a sudden it's like it's that Bugs Bunny meme with the hour, right? Like with the fucking hammer and sickle in the background. Like they suddenly go to that thing. Like, no, you're trespassing. It's like, well, what do you mean you're trespassing? Trespassing on what? Is that
you're trespassing on our great country, and you know you're taking our jobs.
Your gerbs.
And yeah, honestly, that was probably one of the greatest South Park episodes ever. They took our gerbs.
It is also. Have you ever seen Doug Stanhope's bit about the immigration and the taking the jobs?
I don't know. Maybe not.
Oh, you have got to see it. It is so funny.
I'll look it up for sure.
I can't do it justice, but the TLDR of it is like, if you know, somebody who can't even speak the language has got, like, you know, Gilligan's Island ripped pants and no shoes comes in and can compete you for your job, you fucking suck. Like,
I mean, that's true. But honestly, I have to say that some of Trump's rhetoric is very concerning. You know, I saw that Mississippi has introduced a bill that, you know, they'll pay somebody $1,000 for every person that they help get deported. That can only end poorly. You know, you're essentially having state-sponsored bounties against your fellow human being.
And wait! I can't let you speak any further here unless we touch on this. The same fucking people, were up in they were in a tizzy about COVID, and like the Canadians where they had the snitch lines and stuff, and they were like, "Oh, how dare you!" They were indignant. They were up in arms, and they're doing the same fucking thing.
I know it's really, really sad, and honestly, my heart goes out to those people, because here's the thing, you know, the media loves sensationalizing, like the person who got set on fire, the New York subway, and you know, Kate Steinle and all of that. People, the media pushes that deliberately because it's divisive and it gets ratings. But that's not anywhere close to the reality of the undocumented population. You know, per capita, if you just take the undocumented population and compare it to the natural born and naturalized citizen population, the undocumented population is actually less violent, commits less violent crime than the citizens do. And, you know, here's another thing. We get so hell-bent on this status of citizen. Mm-hmm. You know what that means? It just means you're an official slave. That's really it.
Yeah.
In a truly liberty focused world, we would all be undocumented. Just plain and simple.
Yeah, but the thing, I mean, here's where I have been struggling lately, and I've been thinking a lot about, you know, building bridges, and I know that you're really hardcore, dude, and so am I. I think you and I see things exactly the same way with respect to natural rights and individual liberty and the general way things should be. I think we're very closely aligned. But I definitely see problems with this lack of coalition building, right? It's like this hanging on to, like, just clinging to this purity, right? And I'm not saying that, like, there's no utility, there's no reason to have a discussion about philosophy and natural rights and ethics and all the things that we care about, right? I just think it does more harm than good. When I think people coming to liberty are at different points of the journey, and I don't think everybody will ever be able to go all the way all the time, right? Like there's I think there's people get stuck. Like in my video, I called out that being libertarian, but I was like talking about people. I was like, Josie, redhead libertarian, like I got all these issues with her, right? But at the time when the disagreements that she and I have matter in the real world, like if we get to that part where, like, let's say we get to this minarchist world that she envisions, the constitution and whatever this like limited government thing that she wants, like whenever we get there to where our disagreements matter and we have to go further, cool, like then I'll stab her in the neck. But right now, like it feels like fighting amongst each other about stuff that's not happening in the real world, that's not actually moving the needle, it's not getting anything done, seems counterproductive. So tell me how you view that, because like I've been all over the map on this, because I'm in the same boat. Like I get that the hackles get up when I see somebody that claims to be a libertarian saying very unlibertarian things, and maybe it's just I'm getting old, and I've seen that liberty is a spectrum, right? There's no like arrival where you arrive at perfect liberty, because no matter if you're Walter Block or like how far you want to go, Murray Rothbard, there's always gray areas, and there's always like, how do we handle these little fiddly bits and stuff, right? So there's no such thing as somebody that's 100% pure. It's always a spectrum. And so I'm trying to look at this as like, man, can we get on, because I think we have a moment, like regardless of, Trump is terrible, yeah, we get that, but at least, I mean, Ron Paul is being associated with that in some way, right? Even if it's an advisory role. And you got Thomas Massey, he's pretty good for somebody who's in the government, right? Like those type of people are in the discussion, and we're talking about, what Javier Milei is doing. He's being invited to Mar-a-Lago. If you shit on these people and say you're not libertarian enough, you're not pure enough, maybe you arrest their ability to move more our way, right? That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like we might be such dicks that we become off-putting, and some people might say, fuck you, I'm gonna become like whatever. You see people do it, they'll go like full on Nick Fuentes, or like they'll Jeremy Kaufman, like whatever, like that happens. So I want to get your thoughts on this, man, because this is something I struggle a lot with, and I've been trying to be much less of a dick to people online.
It's difficult. The struggle is real. So I have long said, and admittedly I have come up short in some of my exchanges, but I have long said that if I was presented with the option of the status quo or a minarchist state, I would choose the minarchist state in a heartbeat. And the very next heartbeat, I would advocate for its elimination. What you're saying is true. And, I've had really great discussions with people, and I've also had some really shitty discussions with people. I think it depends on how we approach them. And, and I'm throwing myself in this. I have approached people shittily as well. I try not to, but it happens. And I would say I'm not totally, but I would say probably 60-40 more guilty of being that way whenever I'm on the defensive or somebody has initiated it in kind of a shitty way. And I think that we all, individually need to focus on doing better about that. I think that what really needs to happen is there does need to be like a being libertarian outlet, except it needs to actually talk about what it means to be libertarian, and I know that's kind of shots fired. I know it's a little bit, but here's the thing. If you're calling, honestly, being libertarian used to do that, and they used to do a really good job of it. Even across the liberty movement spectrum, they were really good, from Mises, Rothbard, and Minarchy, and just like libertarian ideals and understanding the principles of liberty. Being libertarian used to do that, and somehow after Eric July, I guess he sold it or something.
That's Eric's. That was Eric's. I had no idea.
I think it is. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Eric July founded that. But
wow. Okay.
I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, destroy me in the comments. But I think there was a point where they detracted, and I can't really say where. All I can say is that recently they have been far more about being Republican than anything else, and I think that warrants being called out. If you're gonna simp for Republicans and you're going to champion Republicans, or even say that like Angela McArdle did, and say we need to refocus and focus on Vivek 2028 or whatever the fuck she said. You're not being libertarian. You're being Republican. You might be Republican light in some areas, but you're not doing it. And I think that conversations need to be had about that, but where we are as a people, I think that we have this very bad habit of anybody who's my political enemy is my enemy forever, and we can never get along.
Yeah, for real.
And that's not true. I have legitimate communist friends. Okay. And I'm not talking they're ANCOMs. I'm talking like hammer and sickle communist friends. And, that's fine. We talk about it. We have great debates. But he's a communist, but, it's possible, but we have to check ourselves, and we have to be better about it. And we have to all kind of strive individually. Like, do we want to actually have these types of conversations? And I think that one of the biggest issues is that people don't want to admit that they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's this pride that people have. It is, even if you call out a blatant hypocrisy in a fundamental philosophy that they hold, they'll do the mental gymnastics and justify it, or they'll, straw man or whatever to avoid even having that conversation. And that needs to stop. People should understand that being wrong is actually a good thing. It's how you grow. It's how you improve. And, you're never going to sharpen a blade without removing the material to make it sharp. And, I've been wrong. I admitted in my book how I used to hold certain positions and how I had to change them to be intellectually consistent. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hell, I was wrong about Donald Trump freeing Ross Ulbricht. There's nothing wrong with
wrong.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. And as long as we have that conversation in a way where we're both willing to change our minds if the right things are said or if new information is presented to us. And I think that's the problem, is that we go into these conversations closed-minded. I'm right, you're wrong, fuck you, eat shit and die. That's how people come into these conversations, and that's where the destructive part is, and that's how we'll never actually progress and improve as a people.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think there's so much ego tied into being right, and I think some of that is driven by that cycle. You say, because people want to attack you, they want to prove you wrong. They bookmark your tweets, they come back at you. It's like, dude, I'm one of these people. It's like, dude, if I'm wrong, great. That's one step in figuring out how to be right. Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing I got wrong. Cool. So now I'm not wrong anymore. Thank you for correcting me. And there's just not a lot of that. And I think a lot of it is because, like, Michael Malice has a great quote. And God, I keep saying this all the time on the podcast, but I love it so much. Most people don't analyze the world through a true and false filter. They analyze it through an us-them filter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it is. Everybody's on a fucking team, and
Yep.
you gotta be on the team, defend the team, like repeat the talking points of the team, and we're not doing critical thinking, and nobody is being like throwing the hand up, be like, yeah, I fucked up, or I got this wrong, I'll correct myself. And that's a shame, man, because we got to do that if we're gonna get right.
Yeah, and I wrote 2 essays that they're on my Twitter. One is called On Individualism and Collectivism, and the other is called Be a Good Human. And they both kind of touch on this. this very thing. We talk about individualism as like, okay, I want to do me, but individualism is also like, okay, if I'm going to criticize something, I can't criticize the group as a whole because that's collectivism. I need to criticize the individual that's acting up, like if they're gay or trans or what have you. I'm not going to blatantly condemn the entire LGBT people because of the actions of a few. Those individuals should be the ones being condemned. That's kind of the example that I use, but you could apply that to literally anything. And I think that that's kind of what happens whenever libertarians do infighting, or Republicans and libertarians do infighting, and Democrats and libertarians and Republicans. They're all like, I'm this label, and so you're that label, and like you said, it's this us versus them filter, when in reality it should be, it's me and you, and we're talking, and this is what we need to talk about, and this is the information I have, this is why I feel the way that I feel about this. Why don't you return the favor, tell me what you believe and why you believe it, and we'll talk about it. And there's a possibility I could change my mind, and there's a possibility you could change your mind, or there's a possibility neither of us does, and we walk away and, hey, we had a good conversation. At least we understand each other a little better.
Dude, that is so important. So that's something that I really try to focus on, because I think so many people, and they even use the word, I'm going to convert you. It's like it's like some religious type of thing. It's like, well, hold on a second, that's fucking weird. That's cult behavior, Like, yeah. I want to be right. I want to be accurate. I want to represent truth and virtue in the world, right? That's my goal. And so I've really hyper focused intentionally on having conversations with people, going into it being like, look, I'm not trying to change your mind. Well, like, this is my perspective. What's yours? And when they differ from you, you don't get like defensive and start attacking them. You'd be like, oh, that's interesting. Wow. Like, wow, we see this totally different. Tell me more. Like, be curious, be open, be like maybe you know something that I don't know. You're like, I think that's really lacking. I think we would fix the world a lot faster if people adopted that mode of being, man.
Yeah, no, you are 100% right. And, here's the thing. Like, I said it before, it's okay to be wrong. And if we just went in with an open mind and thought, okay, I could change my mind. And here's the thing, even since becoming an ANCAP, which is a relatively new change in my life, we're talking 2019, 2020. Actually, 2019 was probably whenever I fully transitioned over. But since
you heard it here, Derek transitioned.
Yeah. Hey. But I was even wrong about things that I wrote. Like in my book, I have the chapter on anarcho-communism and how it's wrong and fundamentally flawed and this, that, and the other. I've learned a lot about anarcho-communism since then. It's still not my flavor of anarchy, but I've come to realize that, look, if there are 10,000 anarcho-communists, they build a commune together, and everything's voluntary, and it works. Yeah, who the fuck am I to tell them they're doing anarchy wrong? They're doing it, yeah. And it's okay. The world doesn't need to be divisive. It doesn't. We can all learn from each other. We can all grow from each other. And, I think that if we would just have, that type of mentality of actually seeking to understand, that's the way to put it. If we all just sought to understand each other, the world would be a better place.
Yeah, dude. And the reason I'm bringing this up, man, and the reason I've been thinking so much about it is what you just alluded to with the debt, like the USD collapsing. Like, that could be seriously catastrophic, and it could literally tear down the entire country. And at some point, then you have to build something on the ashes, right? Like, and what is built on the ashes could potentially be way fucking worse than this shit show that we have right now, right? Like, it could go way worse, like very easily. And so one of the things I'm trying to be is a little pragmatic when dealing with the, whoever, name your names that you disagree with in the libertarian community, right? Like, it feels like we might have a moment here, and the moment might not be planned. It might be thrust upon us. And if we've all stabbed each other in the back and the neck and slit each other's throats and pissed on each other's graves, like how are we going to build anything if the worst happens, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm legitimately concerned about this.
Yeah. And I think it's important to say here, you know, it's easy for us to just say these things on the show, but, you know, I'm just as guilty as anybody else of, you know, doing what I'm currently preaching against. You know, I have
So easy to do, man. It's so easy.
It is. It is. What we're talking about here is difficult to do, but I think that if we just had that conscious effort, then it would just be that much better. You know, I'm just as guilty as anybody else, and I don't want anybody listening to think that you know, I've got it down and I'm perfect, and you know, that's what I'm saying. It's not. You know, because here is one thing that does give me hope, is that you know, human beings in times of real catastrophe have come together and set all the bullshit aside. You know, I'm originally from Houston. I saw it during, well, all of the hurricanes and tropical storms that have decimated Houston. You know, the most recent one was Harvey. I've since moved away from Houston since then. But, you know, during Harvey, it was insane how you know, decimated all of Houston was. And you had neighbors helping neighbors. They didn't ask, hey, who'd you vote for? They didn't ask, hey, what's your philosophy in life? They didn't ask what your political ideology is. They just saw people in need and helped them because it was the right thing to do. And that's when shit really matters. So yeah, that, I mean, and it's a wonderful thing that really gives me hope for humans. But we also can't take that for granted. So I think that your approach, while things are good, we still shouldn't hate each other. We still should have those conversations and you know, learn how to have those conversations respectfully and cordially and mutually, because it would make the world a better place. But I do think that, you know, if the United States were to collapse, I think that we as individuals would band together in a way that would be so beautiful. You know, I mean, hell, just go look at the, you know,
Appalachia, man.
Yeah, Appalachia, yeah. I mean,
that's just down the street for me, man. That's Eastern Tennessee. Those people were just road grading, get the fuck out of the way, building bridges. Like, hell yeah. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. And if only, you know, FEMA wasn't around to try and stop them. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, you're spot on. We should be having these conversations, because when shit does happen, you know, what really matters is, hey, are you a human? And yeah, you are. Well, let me help you. I have the provisions and you are in need, you know?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, for real. And another reason I'm thinking about this a lot is, number one, it started with a fear of mine, right? So one of the fears that I had when Trump got elected and surrounded himself with people who are at least labeled libertarian. You can be like, well, is Vivek really a libertarian? I don't know. Is it like, but you know what I'm saying? At least Thomas Massey's there. Ron Paul's part of it. Like, there's people, and it at least is being labeled as, you know, this libertarian, you know, circle of influence in the Trump administration, right? And like I mentioned, Javier Milei being brought to Mar-a-Lago and all these things, right? So the brand is in the spotlight, right? The libertarian brand is front and center. And my concern was that he was going to do Trump things, completely fuck everything up, and then, because we saw his first term, he just like completely turns on people. He throws them completely under the bus, discards them, and then blames them for it, right? So my concern was that libertarians were going to get blamed for the failures of the socialist, corporatist, whatever, you know, leanings that Trump has, liberal fiscal policy, you know, trade policy, like those are going to be blamed on the libertarians around him. So that started my thinking about this, and then I started thinking about something maybe even more terrifying. It's like, what if we succeed, right? Like, and then the real, let's say the real libertarians, if they exist, I don't know, are out. Yeah, let's say some weird world happens and Ron Paul is up there and all these like legit like folks that most people would consider libertarian are up there, and then the world gets a look at us. It gives a look and actually gets to, and they recoil in horror because we're such assholes, right? There's such an insufferable group of people that they'd be like, we don't want anything to do with this shit. And you could lose the moment, like this beautiful moment that could be possible because we're too busy having these petty fucking arguments and like it just being generally insufferable.
I'm gonna break exactly everything I've been saying. Is Jeremy Kaufman at the helm of this, or
the helm of what?
Is Jeremy Kaufman at the helm of, the poster boy for libertarianism if it does succeed? Because
I mean,
as far as arrogant assholes, he's kind of up there.
Well, for sure. I don't know Jeremy very well. I've seen some of the stuff. I don't know how much of his stuff is trolling. The LPNH page is hilarious half the time. Like I dig the memes; those are pretty great. But I don't know, dude. You get my point, though. Like, let's say something happens, and there's like, the libertarians are actually, because, dude, it's been forever since libertarianism was in the public discourse. Think about it, man. Like, it's been literally since Ron Paul's 2008 campaign. When that thing was over, they're just like, fuck this shit. We're not doing that. We're doing a bunch of authoritarian stuff. And everyone's like, cool, which flavor of authoritarianism are we going with? And it hasn't even been in the public discourse. And now to have this like moment where this is being elevated, like I said, scares me for that Trump reason. And then also it scares me because we're kind of awful in a lot of ways, man. Yeah,
no, you're not wrong. I will say that, libertarianism has been, quote unquote, in the mainstream eye for a while. Like there's a quote of Ronald Reagan talking about how he's libertarian.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the 60 Minutes reporter said, well, that's the mainstream idea now is libertarianism, and he talks about fascism coming to America and blah blah blah. But I think that we could. I mean, you know what? Let me put this to bed. Who's a bigger asshole, libertarians or Donald Trump? Donald Trump's kind of a dick.
Ooh. Okay, that's a tough one. Like I said, because he's funny. He's really fucking funny. He's a horrible person, but he is a hilarious person. Libertarians are just tragic and awful. They're like the dude with the fucking Speedo, like at the all of the and then you got Gary Johnson, and you got all like I just think back to mostly LP. I'm talking about LP people, right?
Right.
It's like there's no funniness where there's no humor. It's just sad and tragic and awful. So I mean, like I said, at least Trump is making me laugh. Like I don't know. And also libertarians have been generally irrelevant, right? Like nobody gives a shit. They do their convention every year. They put up their bullshit candidate. They get, I got 300 votes. Yay. Like, I don't know, man.
Is there a question there?
I don't know. I was kind of like a rant where I just gave up. It was just despair and despondency. And I was just like, dude, I don't even know. And maybe this is the question about Angela, right? Because a lot of people gave her shit because she, took her own candidate, threw him under the bus and said, you're terrible. I'm actually going to cut a deal here and we're going to try to get votes for Trump, right? Like, and at the end of the day, like I said, Ross is free. So, I mean, whether she did it or not, I don't know. But let's say she had something to do with it. That is more than the Libertarian Party has ever delivered in their entire history combined in that one thing. And so I'm like, what does it matter? Like my position is, what does it fucking matter? Libertarians are completely irrelevant in every single election. They don't do anything other than like do a giant circle jerk every year and pat themselves on the back and then like get some irrational enthusiasm that maybe we might get 0.5% of the vote. And it's just like, dude, like I mean, and maybe I needed some information because like a lot of people talk shit about Angela. I don't know her at all. Like I've had a couple of DMs with her trying to get her on the show. I don't really know her at all, but I know a lot of people, or should put it this way, she seems to be a very polarizing figure in the community. People either love her or hate her.
Well, she's no longer the chair of the LP, so
yeah,
there's that.
What's going on with that too? Because I heard she resigned, and then it's like, ooh, something's coming next. I'm like, are you going to become a Republican now? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but I actually have my own little conspiracy theory. I don't think I've ever talked about it really.
Ooh, drop it here.
Yeah. So it was heavily alluded to and even somewhat said that the reason that Donald Trump went on like podcasts was because of Barron. And I can see that.
Yeah, that's the story, right? That's the story.
I'm wondering if Barron might actually be a little bit libertarian, and I wonder if he's the reason Trump actually went. I have nothing to substantiate this. Like, this is pure speculation, but I could see that. I mean, he's the right generation where libertarianism is, is what people would want to be, right? A lot of young people are looking at the government like, what the fuck is this? Both of these people are fucking awful. I don't see him being a Bernie bro at all.
No.
So that kind of rules that out. So that would kind of, by process of elimination, lead him to be more libertarian. I wonder if he actually is, and I wonder if the reason behind all of this might have actually been Barron.
Boy, that is a great conspiracy theory, dude. And I think you might be onto something, because one of the things that I noticed is there is definitely a generational gap between Trump and like Donald Jr. and Eric, right? Because you'd see, like, I saw that thread between Dave Smith and Don Jr. being like, when these picks were being like, they don't announce them, they sort of soft announce them, like, hey, this person is about to be nominated for this thing. And then I can't remember, it was might have been Marco Rubio. And then like the whole world is like, what the fuck, in unison. And then Dave tweeted at Don Jr. Don Jr. is like, dude, I'm on this. I'm on it. I get it. Right. And so it seems like Trump is just going to do what he does. He's like, fuck you, I don't care. But it feels like that next generation in that family maybe lean more libertarian. For example, like I was in UAE. I went to go interview Zuby in Dubai at the same time of a Bitcoin conference. And Eric Trump was one of the keynote speakers at this Bitcoin conference. So he's in the space. They're in the crypto space. They do seem to talk about liberty adjacent things at a minimum. And so maybe it keeps getting like, another generation down to Barron. Maybe he's really vibing with those ideas, and that would be dope. But here's another great reason maybe not to completely blast Trump all the time is like, if all the libertarians in unison are talking all this shit, and I'm not saying we shouldn't criticize the guy, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like just being awful towards him, that might turn off Barron, and maybe Barron at some point is going to be president, or he's going to be influential in the administration or whatever. He apparently has his dad's ear for something. So
I mean, at the very least, getting him on podcast, which was honestly a genius move. Like,
it's free.
Whenever Trump started going on podcast, I was like, whoever's advising him is fucking on point, because nobody has ever done this. This is amazing. Amazing advice. And then to hear that it was Barron. So I just looked it up. Barron's 18 years old. So it would be interesting if he started coming out and speaking a little bit more. The thing is, he's been pretty private and pretty quiet about everything, right?
He doesn't. He's almost like the Penn and Teller thing, man. The dude just never talks, except for the only thing I saw was where he talked that shit to Biden. Apparently, you see that little clip where he leaned in and whispered, and then Biden's face fell. If you haven't seen that clip, watch it. It's hilarious. Like, I'm like, that's dope.
Well, I saw that, and then the TikTok of "I like my suitcase," which
I did not see that one.
Oh, he's a child, and so I don't mean this to make fun of him, but it went viral because he's Melania's there, and he has this kind of Russian accent, which I guess is gone now, but it went viral because it was just kind of cute of a little kid going, "I like my suitcase. I go to school now." It was just a really cute video. I'm not gonna lie, but it would be so cool if somebody like Barron Trump would, whenever he does want to become actually public, if he was like, yeah, I think you should look into libertarianism. Like, that could change the world. It really could.
Yeah.
And he's the right generation, and if he's pushing his dad to get on podcasts, I would even be willing to bet that he had something to do with the crypto push as well. I could see it happening. I mean, I could see it happening. I don't think it's likely, but it would be cool if it did.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely would. And so to pivot back to my earlier question is like, what do we do, man? Like this time in history seems pretty big. No, I'm dead serious. Like
No,
I'm as depressed as ever about, or as anyone about Trump, you know. I mean, well, it's tough because it's always compared to what, and you know, at least we're not, having a hot World War III with Russia, which really probably would happen with Kamala. So count your blessings with that. But I'm not jazzed about the dude. Like, I mean, the first several weeks here, whatever it's been, a week, have been up and down. Like you see, like it's just wild swings. Like something is like really awesome. Like the whole killing the DEI stuff. Like so, just these huge highs and then like these crashing lows. Now we got like two states of emergency. We've got 2 states of emergency declared, which are always the precepts for attacking individual liberty. It's going to be like we literally have we were jokingly referred to it as a drug war back in the 80s. Real drug war. Now we're talking about invading Mexico with special forces. Like, I mean, so it's this giant dichotomy. I don't know what to make of it, man. But I feel like we have a potential moment, and unless libertarians get their shit together, like we're gonna lose the plot. Like we're gonna self-destruct. And I'm trying to figure out ways to build bridges. Can we build bridges, or is everybody just so pissed off and so entrenched in their little corners that we're not going to work together at all?
So I think you're right on both. To a degree. I think my plan moving forward is kind of the same plan that I've always had. Just getting the philosophy out there, explaining it to anybody that's interested and willing to hear it. Explaining why certain things are antithetical to liberty, why other things are indicative of liberty and necessary for liberty, why certain things should be frowned upon, but making them illegal should not be the thing. Things like that. I think that if we all focused on messaging and explaining the why, that's been big for me, both in my career as well as in my messaging, on my social media, trying to explain the why. But whenever it comes to, you can't force people to listen to it. That's the hard part, is that you can preach as much as you want, but you can't force anybody to listen to it. And, but unfortunately, that's all you can really do, is just send the message, have the discussions. Remember to try and always be cordial. Always try to approach these differing opinions with an open mind, with the chance of possibly changing your own mind. If we did that, it's hard to lead by it's hard to do all the time, but we should lead by example as much as we can. Again, just focus on the messaging. That's really all that we can do, because we can't force anybody to receive it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've always sort of believed that old trope of politics being downstream from culture. And you're not going to do this via fiat. There's not going to be a revolution. We're not going to forcibly take the government, because people don't want to right now. Like people literally hate liberty in America, generally because it comes with responsibility. And until we get better people, we're not going to have better outcomes in our political sphere, right? So that's why I've been focusing on improving myself and trying to improve society with conversations like this. But I think ultimately we've got to focus not only on the messaging, but setting a good example. We should want to be people that someone would look at and be like, I really want to be like Derek, man. Like Derek is not only, logically consistent and able to articulate these views and make a compelling case, but I actually want to be like Derek. Like, dude, like that's somebody I would like to emulate. And I don't think people put enough stock into that, put enough effort into themselves and trying to better, become a person that somebody would look at you and be like I said, like when, put the libertarians front and center and everyone's like, you guys are awful. Like, look, we don't want that. Like you should, I think that piece of it is really underrated. And just trying to get some fucking decorum and talk to people like human beings again. And I don't know if it's just something with libertarians and being, I don't know, are we autistic? Like, I know a bunch of them are, but like, it's like, guys, pull this shit together, man.
No, we the and it's the beautiful thing of libertarianism is that it is very individualistic. It's probably one of the reasons why the party can't actually unify is because everybody has their own ideas on how it should be, and that's actually a beautiful thing. But it doesn't make for a good, socialist party.
That's the thing, right? And this is why the Libertarian Party made no sense to me. It's because, like, you're right. There's all this individualism. That's great, and but then it's like, can we all get together, all be in these weirdo individualists, and then figure out ways to boss people around, like, and force them, at a barrel of a gun to comply with our dictates? It's like that's an impossible task, and that's why I think you and I both believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that political action is not the way you get to. You don't vote your way to liberty. This is not the way.
Yeah. Although I've been often countered by, I've made that point, and I still believe that point, but I've been often countered because of Javier Milei. And while Milei has done a lot of good things, he's also done some shit that's like, dude, that's not. That ain't it.
That's true, but I got to push back for a second, dude. Like, I get it, like, and I understand the impulse to point out those things, but bro, like, look what he did in our. I mean, that it is phenomenal. Wow, not only that he turned it around, how quickly, but also he called the ball. He's legitimately somebody who understands macroeconomics in a really detailed way. He's not a dummy. He looks like a weirdo and he's kind of a character, but he's really smart. And he said, I'm going to do this, and this is going to be the outcome. And everybody said, oh no, the sky's falling. We can't do that. You can't cut this. And he's like, afuera, fuck you. Yeah. And completely took the chainsaw to government. And I get it. Like in Argentina, the executive has more power to do that. You can't do that in America. But regardless, like, dude, bro came in and changed the entire country and is like legitimately transformed the country in a few months, and it is really on the uptick. And yes, there's stuff that he's done that's not perfect, but God, give the guy some credit, man. That's a massive win.
I absolutely give the guy credit because we talked about it earlier. Pain is the best teacher, and that's pain is what got Javier Milei elected. And because the executive there has so much power, he was able to make all these changes like almost instantly. And it changed a lot of things for the better. The U.S. could learn a lot from.
And that's the power, I think, because you've set that example, like I talked about. You showed what happens. It's no longer theoretical. Yeah. Right? Because you can actually point to a very recent example in the real world where the same economic principles were at play. What happens if we slash this? What happens? And look at the output metrics. Look, dude, we can do this here. Let's just go for it. Like, you at least have an example to follow. And I think that's big. I think we shouldn't overlook the importance of that.
No, absolutely. And I agree. And again, Milei has done some things that warrant criticism for sure, but I think the good that he has done for Argentina far outweighs the bad things that he has done. And yeah, he has committed some not great acts against people that were ultimately peaceful, but other than that, I guess po body's nerfed is all I can really say. But And yeah, those should be criticized and condemned, but everything else that he has been doing has been really good for the people of Argentina, and they're on the lights at the end of the tunnel for them. They still have a ways to go, but they're on the right track and they're moving towards it. And so definite credit where it's due. Milei has done a really good job overall for Argentina in a very short time. And, I wish that Republicans and Democrats in the U.S. would take a look at this and be like, holy shit, maybe we should try at least a little bit of this, but, we won't, because America is America, and we do things our own way.
That's one of the reasons among many. The other one being, I think that the people aren't the customer of the government, right? Like, this is That whole thing is really pie in the sky. But I digress, man. I'm getting really short on time, but I want to ask you one final question, man. Like, what's on your radar as like the biggest thing that you're watching out for now? Like everything's starting to solidify in the administration. Like we're figuring out picks are getting confirmed, and we're going to get the sort of foundation of what this administration is going to start off. So what are you watching?
I'm watching to see if daylight savings time is permanently eliminated in the United States.
That'd be fucking cool. Oh, that would be fucking cool. There you go. Practical. I like it.
And there's one other that I'm watching, but I don't know how I feel about it, because back in the day I was a gun rights advocate and lobbyist and did all the things for gun rights, and they have the National Constitutional Carry Bill. I just don't like government doing things. You know what I mean?
First of all, what is that? Because I don't even know what that is. Because it sounds like it's like a federal mandate that all states have to have constitutional carry. Is that what you're saying?
That's basically it. Massey
don't we have that?
it.
Isn't that called the Second Amendment? Like,
yes, it is. But nobody actually pays attention to it. But Massey authored it, and he's pushing. He's got some co-sponsors to it. My whole hang-up is, what could the Democrats do with this underpinned law? Okay, it's national constitutional carry. Could they flip it to like, oh, now we're going to have a federal carry permit whenever we take power? I'm a little weary on it. And, NAGR has endorsed the bill, National Association for Gun Rights.
Yep.
They endorsed the bill, and
terrible acronym, by the way, guys. What were you thinking when you came up with that acronym? That's terrible.
Yeah. Well, that's a question for Dudley Brown. I don't know. And honestly, if I'm being real, NAGR and their Texas affiliate TXGR, I'm pretty good acquaintances with the director of TXGR, and some of their recent stuff has kind of been disappointing for me. FPC is kind of where it's at, and that's all I can really say. But the thing is, I don't think I've seen FPC make any comments on the National Constitutional Carry Bill, which is another reason why I'm a little weary about it, because not that I really look to other people's endorsements for things, but I also haven't read the bill myself, and I don't know exactly what it says, but I always am weary of what could the other side do with this. I'm always looking at that because I've seen this movie before.
Dude, so few people do that. So few people, when they're figuring out whether to support or be opposed to something, ever flip it around and be like, well, what would happen if the other side was in power? What could they do with this power that I'm trying to give to them? So I think that's a wise move, man.
Yeah. But really, it's the one thing that I'm hoping for is the daylight savings fucking time ending.
Hell yeah.
I would love to be on standard time.
Fuck that Unix time globally. Everyone, we're
I've actually advocated for that too. Everybody use UTC.
Yeah,
done.
I'm tired of doing the conversion when I'm doing my scripts, dude. Like, no. Oh, anyway, I'm a nerd. Yeah, but dude, hey, thank you so much for stopping by again, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And,
man.
Tell people where they can find you, man. If they don't know, I'm sure they know, but tell them anyway.
If you don't know, I don't know what the fuck you're doing with your life. No, I'm kidding. I'm not that popular. You can find me on Twitter at ANCAPAIR. That's ANCAPAIR. That's where I spend most of my time. I do have an Instagram, but I don't ever really post there. You can follow it if you want. I also have a Facebook page, but I also don't post there ever really. So you can follow that if you want.
Just for messaging your grandma or something?
Actually, a couple of my old Navy buddies I use Messenger for, so that's really about it. But Twitter's where it's at. I've got a bunch of articles on my articles tab on Twitter that are free. The first chapter of my book is fully published there. You can read that. My book is on Amazon and Audible, and I need to do what I need. I need to get it on Barnes & Noble. There's a way to do it. I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, it's called The Liberty Solution. And it's on Amazon and Audible. And I think that's everything.
Yeah, everyone pick up a copy, man. I listened to that on a long ass plane ride. That is a great book, man. Kudos. That was really high quality. It was speaking right to my ANCAP heart, dude. So
you don't
really,
mean that.
I mean it, bro. Like, how do I do the little heart thing? I don't know. If I can't do gang signs. Anyway, thanks for pulling up, dude. It's always a pleasure, and we'll chat later, man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep. See ya.